Hello, and tomorrow be a great day. Sit back, relax, and let yourself drift into the story. Imagine standing on the banks of the Yellow River thousands of years ago, the sun casting golden light over water that has seen the rise and fall of empires. You hear the rush of the river, the whispers of winds across the mountains, and in that moment, you realize you are stepping into the very heartbeat of history. Before we journey deeper into emperors, battles, philosophers, and legends, hit that like button if you love epic history. Share this adventure with fellow explorers, subscribe to follow every twist and turn of the past, and comment below telling us which ancient figure you would want to meet. Your thoughts keep these stories alive. The lands of early China were wild and untamed. Towering mountains formed natural fortresses, and rivers carved fertile valleys that became the cradle of civilization. Here, scattered clans eked out a living, farming the soil, taming the rivers, and weaving their lives into the fabric of the land. Survival was never easy. Harsh winters, floods, and rival clans tested courage, strength, and wisdom. From this chaos emerged figures whose vision could transform scattered tribes into empires. Legends speak of Emperor Yu the Great, a man whose devotion to controlling the Yellow River's floods became legendary. Imagine him trudging through mud and water, overseeing thousands of laborers as they dug canals and built massive dikes. Villagers looked on, awed and exhausted, seeing a leader whose commitment surpassed comfort, whose eyes reflected the burden of responsibility for millions. Yu spent decades perfecting a network of waterways, teaching the people how to live in harmony with nature rather than fear it. He was not just an engineer or ruler. He was the first heartbeat of a civilization that would echo for thousands of years. As the Shah dynasty gave way to the Shang dynasty, society grew complex and magnificent. Bronze warriors, intricate rituals, and grand palaces dominated the landscape. Kings ruled from fortified cities, guided by oracles who interpreted signs from the heavens. Farmers labored to feed the growing population. Artisans molded jade and bronze into objects that would tell stories for millennia, and soldiers trained tirelessly to defend their lands. Within these layers of society, power, and devotion, life flourished, yet teetered constantly between brilliance and brutality. The late Shang period brought chaos as the land fragmented into warring states. Lords fought to expand their territories, armies clashed in epic battles, and ordinary citizens bore the weight of these ambitions. Yet even in turmoil, visionaries arose. King Wen and his son King Wu imagined a united China, dreaming of a society bound not only by conquest, but by law, philosophy, and shared destiny. Their ambition was audacious, requiring diplomacy, cunning, and the ability to inspire loyalty across a land filled with rivalries and suspicions. Amidst these conflicts, philosophers and scholars illuminated paths forward. Confucius wandered through villages and courts, teaching that ethics, morality, and just leadership were as crucial as swords and shields. Lao Tzu pondered harmony with the natural world, urging rulers to govern with balance and wisdom. Sun Tzu distilled the chaos of war into strategies that would echo across millennia. These thinkers influenced not just kings, but soldiers, farmers, and artisans alike, reminding them that even in chaos, the mind could triumph over brute force. Imagine standing on a battlefield, the ground trembling beneath thousands of marching soldiers. Armor clanked, banners fluttered, and the air was thick with tension and smoke. Warriors faced one another with a mix of fear and determination, each knowing that the outcome could reshape not only kingdoms, but the very lives of families waiting in distant villages. Every arrow, every clash of steel, every shout and cry became part of the symphony of history, forging courage and resilience into the heart of the people. The unification of these warring states would come through the relentless ambition of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China. He was a man of vision and obsession, determined to bring together fragmented lands under one rule. His rise was marked by genius and ruthlessness. He standardized the language, weights, measures, and currency, laying the foundations for governance and trade across an empire that stretched as far as the eye could see. He built roads and canals, connecting cities and provinces, making movement of goods, armies, and ideas possible on an unprecedented scale. The Great Wall, commissioned by Qin Shi Huang, became both a physical and symbolic barrier. Stretching across mountains and valleys, it defended against northern invaders, but also represented the emperor's ambition and the immense human cost of his vision. Thousands of workers labored and perished under the harsh sun, their sweat and sacrifice embedded into the stones of the wall itself. This was a civilization forged not just by rulers, but by ordinary people whose courage, skill, and endurance turned dreams into reality. Yet life in the empire was not only shaped by wars and rulers. Daily life, even in these turbulent times, was rich and vibrant. Markets thrived with merchants selling silks, spices, and pottery. Artisans labored over intricate bronze vessels and jade carvings, their work telling stories of heroes, gods, and legends. Families celebrated festivals, children played along riverbanks, and farmers cultivated rice paddies, feeding dynasties and sustaining the cultural heartbeat of the empire. Every life, no matter how ordinary, played a role in building the grand mosaic of civilization. Within the walls of palaces, intrigue and ambition swirled. Courtiers whispered, alliances were brokered in secret chambers, and empresses wielded subtle influence, shaping the decisions of emperors. Spies and strategists moved like shadows, gathering intelligence that could shift the balance of power overnight. These moments of tension, of hidden maneuvering, were as crucial to the survival of empires as any battlefield victory. Philosophy and culture thrived alongside ambition. Scholars debated ethics and governance under candlelight. Poets captured the beauty of mountains and rivers in words, and music resonated through palaces and temples alike. The teachings of Confucius guided rulers toward justice. The wisdom of Lao Tzu reminded them of humility, and Sun Tzu's strategies shaped military campaigns with precision. The fusion of intellect, creativity, and ambition created a civilization whose influence would extend far beyond its borders and beyond its time. Imagine walking through the streets of an ancient city, hearing merchants call out their wares, feeling the cobblestones beneath your feet, smelling the aroma of freshly baked bread mixed with smoke from forges. Soldiers march through the gates, bronze gleaming, banners snapping in the wind. Philosophers debate in shaded courtyards, while children chase each other near the riverbanks. The world is alive, vibrant, and teeming with stories waiting to be discovered. It is a civilization in motion, full of tension, beauty, struggle, and triumph.
Through floods, dynasties, battles, and philosophical discourse, the story of China's early civilizations is ultimately a story of humanity itself. It is about vision, sacrifice, and resilience. From Emperor Yu's relentless devotion to Qin Shi Huang's sweeping ambition, from the chaos of the warring states to the harmony of philosophy and culture, every thread contributes to the grand tapestry of history. This tapestry reflects courage, innovation, endurance, and the human desire to leave a lasting mark on the world. Even today, these ancient voices echo across millennia. The lessons of leadership, ethics, strategy, and perseverance resonate beyond the borders of China, inspiring curiosity, wonder, and admiration worldwide. And as you immerse yourself in these tales, remember to engage with them. Like this video if history captivates you. Share it with friends who love epic journeys. Subscribe to continue exploring the wonders of the past. And comment below telling us which emperor, philosopher, or hero you would want to meet. Your engagement breathes life into history, connecting us across time and space to a civilization whose echoes still shape our world. The rise of China's first dynasties was not simply about rulers or battles, it was about people, their courage, their vision, and their resilience. It was about the farmers, artisans, soldiers, and scholars who contributed their sweat, creativity, and intellect to something far greater than themselves. It was about leadership, sacrifice, and the relentless human spirit that seeks to build, endure, and inspire. As we remember their stories, we are reminded that history is never just the past. It is a mirror, a teacher, and a source of endless wonder for the present and future. Delve into the intricate world of the imperial court, where political intrigue, secret alliances, and betrayals determined the fate of emperors and the destiny of millions. The imperial palace rose like a city within a city, its walls gilded and sprawling, adorned with dragon-shaped eaves that caught the sunlight in fiery reflections. Courtiers moved like shadows across marble floors, polished to a mirror-like sheen. The scent of incense mingled with the faint tang of iron from the guards' armor, a reminder that beneath the beauty lay a world of vigilance and danger. Every corner of the palace seemed alive with whispers. Some were merely idle gossip, others carried the weight of life and death. In this realm, even the softest sigh could unravel alliances painstakingly forged over decades. Emperor Liang, barely 25 years old, but already marked by the wisdom of his lineage, ascended to the throne with a mind alert to the fragility of power. His eyes, sharp and observant, missed little. Yet the young emperor was acutely aware that his crown was as much a target as it was a symbol. Among his council were ministers whose loyalty was never unquestioned, and spies whose very existence seemed invisible until their betrayal unfolded like a hidden dagger. Chief among them was Chancellor Wu, a man whose reputation for intelligence was only rivaled by the cold precision of his ambition. Wu had learned to bend words like iron, shaping them to his will, while hiding his intentions beneath a mask of civility. Lady Mei, daughter of a powerful minister, moved through the halls with a subtle grace that belied her cunning. Her beauty was legendary, but those who underestimated her for that would quickly regret their assumptions. She understood that the court was not merely a place of hierarchy, it was a living organism, a network of currents in which one misstep could mean ruin. Every smile she offered, every gesture, and every carefully chosen word was a thread in an intricate web she spun to protect not only her family's position, but the stability of the empire. Beyond the palace gates, the empire stretched across verdant plains and misty mountains, its people living lives of toil, hope, and survival. Generals oversaw armies that marched tirelessly, guarding borders while keeping the loyalty of ambitious lieutenants in check. Farmers labored in flooded paddies and sun-scorched fields, producing the harvests that sustained the population and enriched the coffers of the state. Scholars hunched over scrolls in dim libraries, debated philosophy, astronomy, and the nature of governance, their wisdom quietly guiding rulers whose power seemed absolute. Life in the empire was a delicate balance, as fragile as the porcelain vases displayed in the emperor's private chambers. One evening, as crimson light spilled through the palace windows, Emperor Liang convened a clandestine council in the Dragon Hall. Torches cast flickering shadows across intricate carvings of dragons and phoenixes, and the air was thick with tension, like the calm before a storm. Chancellor Wu presented a plan of alliances through marriages and strategic appointments, each proposal laced with subtle threats and hidden opportunities. Ministers nodded, their faces masks of composure, though some concealed ambition burning beneath the surface. Lady Mei, seated discreetly in the back, observed every expression, every twitch of an eyebrow, and every whispered aside. She had discovered a plot to overthrow the emperor, orchestrated by a coalition of jealous ministers and corrupt generals. Acting too soon would expose her hand. Waiting too long could cost countless lives. By midnight, a network of loyal aides and secret messengers had mobilized, delivering encoded warnings and intercepting treacherous correspondence. Soldiers, under the cover of darkness, quietly surrounded the estates of the conspirators. Documents proving betrayal were uncovered, letters intercepted, and alliances torn apart before they could manifest into open revolt. At dawn, the court awoke not to scandal, but to the quiet demonstration of justice, and the message was clear. Loyalty would be rewarded, treachery punished, and the balance of the empire preserved. Yet even as the emperor's authority strengthened, the true heartbeat of the empire lay beyond the marble halls and gilded gates. Farmers bent beneath the sun, their hands worn by labor yet guided by determination. Artisans shaped clay and bronze with meticulous skill, each creation a legacy of patience and ingenuity. Soldiers trained relentlessly, their discipline protecting the peace of millions. Scholars preserved knowledge that would outlast generations. These unseen contributors were the silent architects of an enduring civilization, their efforts weaving the tapestry upon which emperors built their legacies.
Years passed, and the empire flourished. Emperor Liang, guided by the cunning of Lady Mei and the measured counsel of loyal ministers, faced challenges both external and internal. Border skirmishes were repelled with strategy and diplomacy, famines alleviated through careful planning, and civil unrest quelled not merely by force, but through understanding. The court remained a crucible of intrigue. Alliances shifted, ambitions collided, and even the most trusted confidants required constant scrutiny. In the heart of these power struggles, the emperor's vision remained steady. A dynasty strengthened not by fear alone, but by justice, loyalty, and the collective effort of his people. The palace, with its glittering halls and hidden corridors, became a stage upon which the dramas of loyalty and betrayal played out. Lady Mei, though never openly recognized, became the unseen hand guiding many of these events, proving that true influence often worked in silence, shaping outcomes without demanding applause. Her understanding of human nature, the desires, fears, and ambitions of those around her, allowed the emperor to navigate crises that might have otherwise shattered the empire. Amid this backdrop of grandeur and peril, the human spirit revealed itself in unexpected ways. A general wrote letters home to his children, finding strength in their imagined faces. A scholar patiently taught local children to read and write, ensuring that knowledge would endure beyond the palace walls. A farmer celebrated a successful harvest, unaware that his diligence sustained the empire's very heart. Each act, small and ordinary, contributed to the extraordinary story of a civilization rising, enduring, and thriving. The intricacies of court life, the thrill of political maneuvering, and the weight of decision-making were inseparable from the lives of millions beyond the palace gates. Every choice, whether a subtle nod in a council or a decree sent to distant provinces, rippled outward, touching countless lives in ways both seen and unseen. And yet, for all the schemes, strategies, and secrets, the empire endured because its people, ordinary and extraordinary alike, chose resilience over despair, wisdom over folly, and courage over fear. Thus, the story of the imperial court and the sprawling empire was more than tales of rulers and ministers. It was a living testament to the countless individuals whose actions, whether recorded in history or left in memory alone, built the foundation of a civilization that would inspire generations to come. Beyond the broad sweep of dynastic rise and fall, the lives of individual communities tell a story of resilience and quiet heroism. In the rolling plains along the Yellow River, villages became crucibles of innovation.
Farmers experimented with crop rotation and irrigation canals, learning to coax the land into yielding more than it seemed capable of offering. During the dry season, communities dug reservoirs to collect rainwater, while skilled laborers reinforced riverbanks to prevent devastating floods. These feats were rarely acknowledged in historical records, yet they were essential to the survival and prosperity of the dynasties. The labor of hundreds, even thousands of villagers allowed cities to grow, markets to flourish, and dynasties to consolidate power. In tandem with agricultural mastery, artisans elevated daily life into an art form. Pottery workshops hummed with activity as artisans transformed humble clay into objects of beauty and utility. From intricately decorated ceremonial vessels to practical storage jars, each piece reflected a sophisticated understanding of form, function, and symbolism. Metalworkers forged tools, weapons, and ceremonial bronze objects, their work vital to both survival and cultural expression. The casting of bronze, for instance, required not only technical skill, but profound knowledge of chemistry and material properties. Entire communities often collaborated to produce a single monumental bronze vessel, demonstrating the unity and coordination required to achieve something enduring. These artisans were not mere servants to the elite. They were architects of cultural identity, shaping the way society remembered itself through objects, monuments, and ritual. Soldiers, meanwhile, were the guardians of both land and people, standing at the intersection of survival and ambition. Life along the borders was harsh, demanding physical endurance, tactical acumen, and moral resolve. Campaigns were grueling. Armies traversed mountains, rivers, and deserts, often marching in formation for days under the unforgiving sun. Yet soldiers were more than instruments of war. They were integral members of the communities they defended. Many returned home to tend fields or teach children, blending martial skill with civic duty. Their dual role reinforced the bond between rulers and the ruled, ensuring that defense was not an abstract concept imposed from above, but a shared responsibility born of necessity and loyalty. Amid these physical and material contributions, scholars were the silent architects of civilization. They recorded history, analyzed natural phenomena, and advised rulers on governance. Their work laid the groundwork for sophisticated systems of administration, taxation, and law, enabling dynasties to govern vast territories with relative stability. Beyond practical governance, scholars explored philosophy, ethics, and cosmology, probing the deeper questions of human existence and society. Their writings nurtured a moral and intellectual framework that shaped Chinese culture for centuries. By advising kings on matters of state and society, scholars bridged the gap between knowledge and power, ensuring that governance reflected the realities of the land, the people, and the natural world. The construction of monumental works such as palaces, fortifications, and ceremonial complexes further illustrates the ingenuity and determination of ordinary people. Take the palaces of the Song dynasty, for instance. Massive wooden beams, intricately joined without nails, rose skyward to form structures that symbolized both political authority and cultural sophistication. Laborers hauled timber, carved intricate patterns, and laid foundations that would endure centuries. Each structure was a collective achievement, reflecting the coordination of diverse skills and the sweat of countless hands. These works were not merely functional. They embodied the values, aesthetics, and aspirations of a civilization in the making. Communities faced constant external threats, from nomadic tribes to rival polities, demanding vigilance, adaptability, and courage. Villages reinforced walls, trained militias, and stored provisions to survive sieges. Stories of heroism emerged from these circumstances, though many were never recorded in royal chronicles. An elderly farmer might organize a night watch, a blacksmith might forge weapons for neighbors, and a teacher might secretly educate children in preparation for the future. Each act, small and ordinary, contributed to the resilience of a nation under pressure. History is often told through the lens of kings and generals, but it is the courage of common people, acting with ingenuity and determination, that truly shapes the course of events. Religious and cultural practices also played a crucial role in sustaining morale and community cohesion. Rituals marking the lunar calendar, ancestor worship, and seasonal festivals reinforced social bonds and provided a sense of order amid uncertainty. Music, dance, and storytelling were not mere entertainment. They were vessels for memory, morality, and cultural transmission. Through these practices, individuals contributed to a shared identity, linking generations through common beliefs, values, and traditions. In times of adversity, these cultural frameworks offered comfort, continuity, and a moral compass, reminding people that their labor and sacrifices had meaning beyond immediate survival.
The challenges faced by early Chinese societies were not solely external. Internal strife, succession disputes, and competition among noble families often threatened the stability of the realm. In these moments, the resilience and wisdom of scholars and local leaders became critical. Negotiations, strategic marriages, and diplomacy were employed alongside military action to maintain cohesion. Even ordinary citizens played a role in these political landscapes, whether by providing counsel, supporting local leaders, or ensuring the continuity of essential services in agriculture. The ability of a society to survive internal turbulence depended not just on the ruler's strength, but on the collective vigilance and adaptability of its people. Technological advancement accelerated during these formative periods. The invention and refinement of the plow increased agricultural productivity, while irrigation systems allowed settlements to expand into previously uninhabitable areas. Metallurgy enabled both superior weaponry and sophisticated tools, enhancing construction, craftsmanship, and daily life. Early forms of writing and record-keeping facilitated governance, trade, and cultural preservation. These innovations were not the work of a single genius or monarch. They were cumulative achievements of communities dedicated to solving real problems. Every advancement reflected a deep understanding of the environment, the human body, and social organization, underscoring the ingenuity inherent in ordinary life. Consider the stories of laborers constructing fortifications to defend against northern invaders. Thousands worked in unison, cutting stone, carrying earth, and erecting walls, often under harsh weather and constant threat of attack. Despite exhaustion and injury, they persevered because their work meant survival, not just for themselves, but for their families, neighbors, and the dynasty itself. The walls were not only military installations, they were symbols of human determination, collective problem-solving, and the capacity to turn adversity into achievement. Each stone laid was an assertion that human spirit could endure and shape the environment to its needs, bridging the gap between vulnerability and security. Similarly, the stories of artisans who produced ceremonial bronzes, pottery, and textiles reveal a profound interplay between utility and expression. Their creations were functional, yet each bore symbolic meaning, serving as conduits between the physical and spiritual worlds. A bronze vessel might honor ancestors, commemorate a victory, or mark a seasonal ritual. A finely woven textile might indicate status, identity, or moral values. Through these objects, individuals expressed intellect, devotion, and creativity, leaving a legacy that endures long after the physical labor has ended. These artifacts are tangible reminders that civilization is not only built from resources,
but from human imagination and dedication. Even the scholars' contributions were intertwined with the lives of ordinary citizens. Their research on agriculture, astronomy, and medicine informed everyday decisions, from when to plant crops to how to treat illnesses. Legal codes helped maintain social order, while philosophical texts offered guidance for ethical governance and personal conduct. Their work was not abstract theory, it was deeply practical, guiding the rhythms of daily life and ensuring that society could function cohesively despite the complexities of expansion and conflict. Without the insights of scholars, laborers, soldiers, and rulers alike would have been navigating an uncertain world blindfolded. The rise of China's first dynasties ultimately demonstrates the interdependence of all segments of society. Rulers could command armies and impose laws, but without farmers producing food, artisans creating tools and infrastructure, soldiers defending borders, and scholars preserving knowledge, their authority would be hollow. Every success of the dynasty, from monumental construction projects to territorial expansion, depended on the concerted efforts of millions. Their sweat, creativity, courage, and intelligence collectively wove the fabric of civilization, creating a foundation upon which later dynasties could build. It is this shared human endeavor that transforms historical narratives from accounts of kings and wars into stories of universal significance. The triumphs and struggles of common people, laborers, soldiers, artisans, and scholars remain as inspiring today as they were millennia ago. Each act of resilience, ingenuity, and dedication was a thread in a vast tapestry, demonstrating that the greatest achievements of any civilization are the products of ordinary individuals striving together toward a common purpose. The grandeur of palaces, the durability of fortifications, the beauty of art, and the wisdom of governance all reflect the sweat and intellect of countless individuals whose names may never be recorded, but whose legacy endures. As we reflect on these monumental efforts, we see that the story of China's first dynasties is not merely a chronicle of rulers and battles. It is a testament to human potential, the capacity to endure, adapt, and create. It reminds us that civilization is built not solely by the powerful, but by the collective courage, vision, and resilience of people who invest themselves fully in the work of building, sustaining, and inspiring something greater than themselves. Their legacy teaches that every contribution matters, and that enduring achievements arise from unity, perseverance, and the relentless pursuit of a shared dream. History in this light becomes more than a record of the past. It is a mirror reflecting the strength of the human spirit. A teacher offering lessons in courage, creativity, and cooperation. And a source of wonder, reminding us that the extraordinary often emerges from the ordinary. The rise of China's first dynasties illustrates that even in the face of natural disasters, invaders, and societal challenges, people can come together to create wonders that endure beyond lifetimes. It is a story that invites reflection, admiration, and inspiration, urging each generation to honor resilience, nurture vision, and participate in the ongoing narrative of human achievement.
Journey through China's golden age of trade, culture, and philosophy, where merchants, scholars, and explorers connected the East and West, shaping a global heritage of ideas and commerce. It was a time when the flow of ideas and goods crossed deserts, mountains, and oceans, carried by those brave enough to leave the familiar behind. From the bustling marketplaces of Chang'an to the remote oases along the Silk Road, the rhythm of life was a symphony of ambition, ingenuity, and human connection. The city of Chang'an, capital of the Tang Dynasty, was the beating heart of this golden age. Its streets teemed with merchants from across Asia, Central Asia, and even as far as the Mediterranean. Spices from India,
Silk from the looms of Suzhou and precious stones from Persia adorned the markets. The air was thick with the scent of exotic perfumes, the sound of foreign tongues, and the constant hum of bartering. Merchants displayed their wares with pride, their stalls a riot of color and texture. But these marketplaces were more than centers of commerce. They were places of cultural exchange. Ideas traveled along with goods, from philosophies and religions to scientific innovations and artistic styles. It was here that Buddhism, which had traversed the mountains from India centuries earlier, flourished alongside Taoist and Confucian thought, influencing art, literature, and governance. The Tang era was marked not just by trade, but by an extraordinary flourishing of philosophy and scholarship. Scholars often gathered in imperial academies or private study halls, debated ethics, governance, astronomy, and the natural sciences. They meticulously transcribed texts, preserving knowledge that might have otherwise been lost. Calligraphy and poetry became expressions of intellect and emotion, while historians recorded the achievements and failures of rulers and commoners alike. These scholars were bridges between the past and the present, grounding society in ethical principles, intellectual rigor, and cultural pride. Merchants, too, were not simply traders of goods. They were carriers of ideas, explorers of distant lands, and pioneers of networks that spanned continents. Consider the merchants traveling the Silk Road, their caravans stretching for miles across the deserts of Central Asia. Camels bore bolts of silk, ceramics, tea, and spices, while merchants navigated political uncertainties, harsh climates, and the constant threat of bandits. Each journey required courage, knowledge of foreign customs, and a keen sense of negotiation. Along the way, they exchanged stories, maps, and news, becoming conduits for a global exchange of thought and culture. Cities became melting pots of cultural and intellectual exchange. Scholars debated philosophical principles in tea houses, while artists drew inspiration from foreign motifs and techniques. Temples adorned with intricate carvings and murals depicted stories from Buddhism, Taoism, and local folklore, creating a unique visual language that resonated across social strata. Music and dance, influenced by distant lands, were performed in palaces and marketplaces alike, demonstrating the permeability of cultural boundaries. Even cuisine evolved, blending local ingredients with exotic spices, a culinary testament to the interconnectedness of the era. Explorers played an equally critical role in shaping this golden age. Figures like Zhang Shen had, generations earlier, paved the way for China's engagement with Central Asia, opening trade routes that would flourish in the Tang period. Later, maritime adventurers followed in their wake, navigating uncharted waters, encountering new civilizations, and returning with knowledge, diplomatic alliances, and trade opportunities that enriched Chinese understanding of the wider world. Their journeys were perilous. Storms, pirates, and treacherous coastlines claimed many lives. Yet the rewards, knowledge, diplomatic alliances, and trade opportunities were immense. The daring of explorers underscored a broader philosophy, that human curiosity, combined with courage and skill, could bridge continents and transform societies.
The Golden Age was also a period of remarkable technological and scientific advancement. Paper, printing, and gunpowder were refined and disseminated, enabling literacy, knowledge sharing, and defense innovations. Astronomers charted stars and planets, influencing calendars and agricultural planning. Medicine evolved, drawing on both local traditions and foreign influences, while engineering feats, including grand canals, bridges, and city fortifications, demonstrated the sophistication and ambition of the era. Every invention and observation was part of a larger vision,
a society that sought to harmonize human endeavor with the natural and cosmic order. Yet, amid prosperity and innovation, challenges persisted. Political intrigue in the imperial court threatened stability, while rebellions, banditry, and natural disasters reminded citizens of the fragility of order. Merchants had to navigate shifting trade policies and taxes. Scholars contended with ideological rivalries, and explorers faced the dangers of unknown territories. But it was precisely this interplay of risk and reward that drove ingenuity, resilience, and ambition. The Golden Age was not a static paradise. It was a dynamic, vibrant period defined by both opportunity and challenge, where success demanded vision, perseverance, and adaptability. Religious and philosophical thought offered guidance in these complex times. Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism interacted in subtle, profound ways, shaping ethics, governance, and daily life. Temples and monasteries became centers of learning, offering sanctuary to scholars, artists, and travelers. Meditation, ritual, and scholarship intertwined, emphasizing moral responsibility, compassion, and balance. Philosophy was not confined to books. It informed trade ethics, diplomatic conduct, and urban planning, reflecting an understanding that human society thrived when guided by wisdom and virtue as much as by material wealth. The legacy of merchants, scholars, and explorers was cumulative and transformative. Goods exchanged across borders carried stories, art, and beliefs, reshaping societies far beyond China's borders. Silk from the looms of Chang'an influenced fashion in Persia. Porcelain reached distant courts in the Middle East. Buddhist texts inspired philosophical thought across Central Asia. Ideas flowed along with commodities, creating a complex, interwoven network of culture, commerce, and knowledge. This exchange laid the foundations of globalization centuries before the term existed, illustrating that human curiosity and cooperation can transcend geographical and cultural divides. In markets and ports, in academies and temples, the stories of human endeavor unfolded every day. Children learned to read by candlelight, copying the poems of Li Bai and Du Fu. Merchants negotiated in foreign tongues, bridging cultural divides. Artisans perfected their craft, blending traditional techniques with new influences. Explorers navigated uncharted seas, carrying letters and maps that connected distant lands. These daily acts of ambition, diligence, and courage collectively shaped the trajectory of civilization. They illustrate a profound truth, that the greatness of an age is not measured solely by monuments or conquests, but by the knowledge, creativity, and spirit of the people who inhabit it. The Tang dynasty, in particular, epitomized this convergence of commerce, culture, and thought. Its capital, Chang'an, became a cosmopolitan hub, welcoming merchants, scholars, diplomats, and adventurers from across Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. Streets were alive with the movement of ideas as much as with the movement of goods. Music and art infused with foreign influences flourished. Poetry captured the beauty and transience of life. Philosophical discourse explored ethics, governance, and the human condition. Education and literacy expanded, supported by innovations in printing and the widespread availability of texts. This golden age demonstrated that intellectual and economic growth were deeply intertwined, and that prosperity flourished where curiosity and creativity were nurtured. Across the vast expanses of human history, myths and legends often intersected with real events, illuminating the struggles and triumphs of civilizations. In ancient kingdoms, the stories of heroes and their deeds were intertwined with cultural identity, shaping the moral and ethical framework of society. One enduring example comes from the chronicles of a distant empire where a general named Li Seng faced an invasion that threatened the very survival of his homeland. Though unnumbered, he devised ingenious strategies to use the terrain to his advantage.
Li Seng's brilliance was matched only by his unwavering devotion to his people. Every decision he made, sending troops to protect vulnerable villages, rationing supplies with fairness, and negotiating with local leaders, was an embodiment of honor and sacrifice. His legacy was not simply the victories he won, but the lives he preserved, the trust he fostered, and the stories of courage that would inspire generations. Not all heroes wielded weapons or commanded armies. Across kingdoms, scholars played pivotal roles in guiding rulers and advising citizens, embedding wisdom into the fabric of daily life. Consider the tale of Meng Tian, a scholar-administrator whose insight into geography and logistics helped construct monumental fortifications that would later protect civilizations from invasion. Meng Tian's genius lay not only in his intellect, but in his humility and perseverance. He labored tirelessly alongside engineers, artisans, and laborers, recognizing that knowledge alone could not succeed without collaboration and shared purpose. His story reminds us that heroism can reside in intellectual labor and ethical guidance just as much as it does in the battlefield.
The ordinary citizens, the farmers, artisans, and laborers were equally central to this narrative of courage and sacrifice. In countless villages, families worked together to build irrigation systems, canals, and granaries, ensuring food security for entire regions. Laborers braved harsh winters and scorching summers, constructing roads and walls that would stand for centuries. Their hands carried not only physical weight, but the collective responsibility of sustaining civilizations. Though their names were seldom recorded in grand chronicles, their contributions were immortalized through the enduring structures and cultural continuity they helped secure. These stories underscore a timeless truth. Heroism is often quiet, persistent, and communal. Myths often served as vessels for cultural and moral instruction, blending reality with symbolism. One legendary narrative tells of a young warrior who faced a tyrant threatening his village. Armed with courage and guided by moral clarity, he ventured into the tyrant's stronghold, not seeking glory, but justice. Along his journey, he encountered trials designed to test his honor, integrity, and compassion. Each challenge revealed the deeper dimensions of heroism, the wisdom to act with discernment, the courage to face danger without fear, and the willingness to sacrifice personal gain for the well-being of others. Generations who heard this story internalized these lessons, applying them in their own lives, demonstrating how myths transcend mere entertainment to shape ethical consciousness. Explorers and travelers were another group whose courage and vision left indelible marks on history. Across deserts, mountains, and seas, these adventurers charted unknown territories, carrying knowledge, goods, and cultural practices across continents. Zhang Chen, for instance, journeyed far beyond his homeland, bridging connections between distant lands and laying the groundwork for cultural and commercial exchanges. His journeys were perilous, fraught with threats from hostile tribes, treacherous terrain, and the uncertainty of foreign customs. Yet his determination exemplified the human drive to expand understanding and connect communities. Stories of such explorers illustrate that courage is not only about confronting immediate danger, but also about confronting the unknown with intellect, preparation, and ethical purpose. Sacrifice appears as a central theme throughout these stories, resonating in both grand gestures and everyday acts. In one enduring tale, a healer volunteered to tend to victims of a widespread epidemic, knowing that exposure could cost him his own life. His devotion saved countless individuals, yet he remained anonymous in the annals of history. Another story recounts a mother
who, during a famine, gave her meager rations to neighboring families, ensuring the survival of children beyond her own household. These acts of selflessness, while often invisible in historical records, form the moral backbone of civilizations. They teach that heroism is defined not by recognition or reward, but by the courage to prioritize collective well-being over individual comfort. Cultural achievements were themselves acts of courage and resilience. Artisans labored for months, sometimes years, crafting works that celebrated human creativity while reinforcing moral and philosophical ideals. Intricate ceramics, bronze vessels, and calligraphy embodied both aesthetic beauty and ethical significance. A sculptor might depict a legendary hero, not only commemorating historical deeds, but also conveying moral lessons to the community. A poet, through verses of reflection and inspiration, transmitted wisdom across generations, shaping thought and behavior. These contributions illustrate that heroism extends beyond physical bravery. It includes the courage to express truth, to inspire, and to preserve the values of society. Philosophy and education played critical roles in ensuring that the lessons of myth and history were not lost. Schools, academies, and temples became centers of moral and intellectual development. Students studied ethics, history, and literature, learning to balance ambition with responsibility, power with compassion, and action with reflection. The dialogues and debates that unfolded in these spaces cultivated leaders, thinkers, and citizens who carried the wisdom of the past into the practical challenges of their own times. By linking knowledge with ethical action, these scholars ensured that heroism and virtue were not confined to stories, but lived and practiced in society. Even in periods of upheaval, war, political unrest, or natural disaster, the values embedded in myths guided behavior. Soldiers, faced with overwhelming odds, drew inspiration from legendary heroes who had triumphed through courage and ingenuity. Families displaced by famine or invasion recalled the lessons of communal solidarity and moral responsibility. Leaders seeking to rebuild trust and stability relied on ethical principles passed down through stories. Myths became a moral compass, reminding societies that honor, courage, and sacrifice were not temporary ideals, but enduring frameworks for action.